Hi there, everybody. I'm Mairead Smialek, and today I'm here with Charlie Mopps, and he's the Director of Public Works for the Town of Longboat. Thank you so much for being with us
Well,
today.
thanks for having us.
We're talking about a topic that's really important that I don't think gets enough attention, and that's the dredging of the canals. So you want to talk a little bit about the history of the dredging of the canals?
Yeah, perfect. It's a great place to start.
Yep.
The town has been looking at this, setting up a program, not just projects, since the mid-90s. And since then, they actually, even back then, they had formulated a think tank of citizens to kind of come up with like some ideas of how would you fund this. And they were looking at other municipal models that actually have programs like this in place. And what, even back then till now, you're going to see as we talk through this that the methodology of trying to get a program established and fund a program like this hasn't really changed. So the last time the town did any dredging of any of the canals was back in 2003. So that's 23 years of neglect. So we're kind of back into the restoration mode. Yeah. And the project that they did in 2003 was, again, more of a restoration project. And what we're looking to do is get away from that. Let's get into like a maintenance program. Yeah. Because that will drive down impacts to the citizens and drive down ultimately the cost of something like this.
Yeah, and you talk about, waterfront property selling real estate, right? You have to have boatable water for the water to be, for that land to have value. So it's not just maintaining those waterways, it's making sure that our property values stay high, and you have to maintain these.
That's a great point. For 15 years, I ran the program for Charlotte County. I was their coastal zone manager. I ran the beaches. They had over 300 miles of navigable channel that had to keep navigable. And how they did it was through assessment-only program. And like those communities that were actually taking advantage and actually doing the maintenance program, they could literally say on a real estate document that their property is on a municipal maintained waterway. Yeah. I mean, that's something to be said for the property values and maintaining those property values. So hopefully we can get there through this program.
Perfect. For people that don't understand out there that are watching, why is this done? Why is it important to dredge the canal?
Well, there's three real reasons. First, obviously, is the navigation and maintaining that level of service for the citizens that we serve. The second one is, there's some secondary benefits. One of them is, especially like where you live in Country Club Shores, a lot of the drainage off of GMD, the runoff, will end up into a pipe that will exit into the canal. And because of that, you're going to get siltation, you're going to get roadside debris, everything else that comes along with it. So by doing this program and maintaining the navigation, you're also helping to maintain your stormwater system at the same time, the capacity of that stormwater system. Then again, like I mentioned, all that stuff that kind of ends up on the bottom of the canal turns into this nice, lovely, what we used to call baby poo muck. And that becomes a food source for bad things like algae blooms, red tide, stuff like that. Yeah. And other municipalities, even on the other coast of Florida, they literally dredge for bioload reduction. So they're trying to remove that food source for those bad things, and then move and take that away from the potential to become, an enhancer for something nasty like that.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what red tide is, it is really catastrophic to our sea life. I mean, it's very, very sad. So anything we can do to help mitigate that is a win-win.
I do encourage that people go visit the town's website. Because the town website, and we had it in the handout that we were giving. Yep. But if you go on the town website, the main page, there's a button that says Navigation Program. Okay. Or you can find the same link under Residents, all the way to the right on the very bottom. Just click on that, and it's going to open up the town's webpage. But there's also a dedicated webpage built by our consultants that is full of information. Okay. So anything that you might have, frequently asked questions are in there. Well, what the value would be, charged to every resident. You can literally, there's an interactive map where you can click on your house and find out what the first year of program would cost, and then what the second year of program would cost. Because I think that's a valuable tool, and with it, we've done open house style public presentations. The first 4 of those were actually recorded at Town Hall, and all those recordings are posted. So you can actually see too, like what your fellow residents are thinking, or what some of those questions that were bounced back and forth real time just by watching like a half-hour video. First off, we're going in front of the board on April 6th at the regular meeting to ask for them their guidance on the next steps by vote. At that point, that's a linchpin moment because they need to make a decision on how we're moving forward. Are we keeping the same methodology of 80-20? Are we moving to something else? Are we just going to postpone until we can figure out what's going to happen with this House bills and the Senate bills about property taxes? You know, it doesn't mean the work that we've done up to this point isn't valid. It's fine. We can always, maybe next year, just move it. You know what I mean? Because we've already set the table. But if they decide to move forward, on May 4th would be the first public hearing that would actually, you know, be setting the assessment in the millage. And then on May 11th, there's going to be a mass mailing that would be going out to every resident. You know, every resident will get it. And then June 1st would be the second hearing. So that way in November, when the tax bill comes out, then the program could go active.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought I needed to share that because if anybody in the community would want to go and see or speak on behalf of the program or have a concern against the program or potential program, go to the April meeting, you know, make your voice heard, send an email to your commissioner. All those things are very important.
What are the implications of not doing it? I mean, I think we kind of talked about it, but is there anything that I'm missing here that we haven't addressed?
There are some implications. If we don't do it, we're doing this restoration. We're doing these big projects that impact the community for periods of time. So when you have to restore waterways, you're looking at having a contractor in the backyard of somebody dredging out this material for an extended period of time versus if you have a maintenance program, you only have to focus then on the hot spots, wherever that hump might exist. Other implications are that if, you know, we have permits that actually tie the construction of or the creation of a seagrass mitigation area. Because in the process of dredging, you're going to impact seagrasses. Well, we already per permit have the ability to build up to 4 acres in an area that was the old abandoned intercoastal waterway that the Army Corps dredged back in the late 1800s. And then when they said, we don't like it there, we're going to move it over here. Well, they left that deep pocket. And so if you look at the Sarasota Bay Estuary program and the amount of seagrasses and the promotion of seagrasses that they're doing, this project or this program and the projects that it contained will actually help support that by actually going out there and creating more seagrass.
That's great. And if we have a program, then let's say, we're not going to talk about hurricanes because we're not getting any more, right? But let's say we get one.
Where's some wood?
Right, no, we get one, right? And debris comes back in the canal. If we've got a program, we're hoping that FEMA is going to be able to cover any of the negative consequences of that, but that would not be the case if we didn't have a program.
That's correct.
Okay.
It is correct because, like, when I was doing this work for Charlotte County, I had 2 big dredge projects going on at the same time, and this was like the second, third iterations of dredging those communities. And Hurricane Charlie came running through, so I said, "Hey, contractors, you guys need to go, enact your hurricane plan, which means get off scene, you know. But before you go, let's survey everything that you have dredged up to this point." And because we're a part of a program, a maintenance program, I was able to give that information to FEMA, and FEMA then pays to have those canals restored.
Which is incredible.
And you know, if you think about it, just like our beaches, because our beaches are so well maintained, we've been doing it again since the early 90s. Over 9 million cubic yards of material were placed on those beaches since that time. And the fact that we do physical monitoring as part of that program, we're able to put in the claims for FEMA, which we do have right now.
Yeah. I cannot say enough about how the town of Longboat Key just such an incredible job at running our beautiful island. So, last question I have is, because people are going to ask, when you're dredging a canal, does it hurt sea life or hurt animals? Because I worry about that.
No, and per permit, you are like, okay, so let's the one big one is the manatee. Nobody wants to hurt a manatee, especially like if you go into our canal system during the winter, there's a little bit warmer water, so they like to hang out.
Yeah, love that.
But by permit, you're supposed to, on the dredge, the way you set up your turbidity screens has to be in a way that doesn't affect them. You have to literally have a crew member on the boat that they're on the dredge that the sole responsibility is to monitor first for any manatee presence. Because if that happens, they have to shut down.
Okay, good.
In addition to that, like when I talked about the turbidity curtains, those just help make that turbid water stay where the construction zone is. So you wouldn't want that to cloud over the seagrass beds or maybe create something else. There's also turbidity monitoring that's part of the program that they have to do per permit. So I think we would be good with this. And in all the years of me being out on these dredges and doing this, we've experienced manatees. We've shut down the operation until they left, and they were less curious and took off, and we were able to go right back to operations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you.
If you have any additional questions, you can find his contact details below, and we'll see you on the next one.